This one is from Reddit Homeschool Recovery, and it is entitled 37, Trying to Convince People Homeschool is Evil. I'm an old one. I'm 37 male now, and honestly, life isn't too bad. I was homeschooled from 5th to 8th grade. I went to public high school. In elementary school, I was extremely outgoing. I had a lot of friends and was kind of the leader of my friend group. Then my mom started hating public school and took me out. My mother was nice and pretty relaxed in general, but she didn't know what she was doing, and she had no pull to really do much of anything. When I was homeschooled, we had to turn in 2 work samples from each subject once a month, just to prove we were doing work. It was supposed to be simple because you did work all month. Just to take 2 samples from dozens available and send it in. Nope. The last day of the month, every month, was the only day we did any real work. And it was just to get those 2 work samples. I played baseball in some rec leagues and went to church, but I had no real friends. No one I could talk to my age, and I was only ever around my immediate family. My parents loved high school. They met in high school, so they felt like having a high school experience was important, so they sent me to high school. Problem was, I now missed out on going through puberty surrounded by kids. I was still socially in 5th grade and went to 9th grade. I was terrified of everything for 4 years. I sat by myself at lunch for 4 years. I never talked to anyone. High school was horrible. Well, that was 20 years ago. Life gets better and you push through. I'm married with 3 kids. I have a great job. I make a lot of money, and honestly, life is good. I still have no friends, but I don't have a problem socializing. I feel comfortable talking to people, but it was a multi-decade long process. I still struggle here and there, but not much. I don't have any childhood friends, obviously. And at my age and all that I have going on with kids, I don't have anything pushing me to make friends. Probably not good, but that's where I'm at. I got married young, and luckily my wife pursued me and is the most extroverted person you'll ever meet. Otherwise, I likely would have had a much harder time finding someone. I started writing this to ask a question, curious what others' thoughts are. But as I wrote all this, I hope I can at least let some of you know things can definitely get better. I'm still angry that I feel like my teenage years were stolen from me, but I'm a happy person in general. While I'm here, I'll ask the question still. My wife's friends are all starting to homeschool. A lot of them. Now my wife is saying, am I a bad mother for not wanting to homeschool? She obviously knows my experience and what I feel about it. I know a lot of people that were socially messed up by it. I think homeschool is evil. But then again, there are some families with teenage kids I know that at least from the outside seem totally socially normal. Yet they are all homeschooled. The teenage kids say they love it. There are a few examples like that in our lives, and if you search around, it seems there is more good than bad out there in homeschooling. No matter what, I would never homeschool my kids. My wife knows it's a hard no regardless, but I'm so curious. Do you think there is a right way to homeschool that doesn't ruin kids, and mine and apparently all your parents failed at? I've always had the opinion that extracurriculars for something like 4 hours a week on a good week don't make up for 30 hours of socializing for all the public school people. And there's nothing homeschool parents can do to keep up with the socializing of public school. But apparently it works for some people, so just curious on everyone else's opinions. Yeah, so before I go into some of the comments, I'm just gonna touch back on a couple of the high points he made. First of all, his mom was a bad homeschooler. It sounds like they lived in a state that made it, easy to homeschool well. You had to turn in 2 subjects per grade, you had to turn in 2 samples per subject every month. And the idea was that if you're doing your work, you're gonna have 2 grade samples. Those were the rules. That's what she was supposed to do. They made it easy. She failed at that. His mom was a poor homeschooler. Like, everything was laid out for her. There were so many curriculums to choose from. She chose to only homeschool him 1 day a month. He should be mad at his mom. And that annoyed me terribly. Now, 20 years ago, and I started homeschooling my kids 20-something years ago, 28, 30. Socialization for homeschoolers was a little different. It was easier to be isolated and just be with your family. But if you had a little bit of money, and I had a little bit of money, you would put your kids in a homeschool hybrid program, homeschool school, homeschool co-op, something like that, where they got at least 2 full days a week with other kids. I know a lot of homeschooled adults now, and they went through a similar program that my kids went through, where they did their arts together and some of them did their academics together. And all these kids are pretty normal. They're all business people. Are there wallflowers? Are there overconfident kids in the bunch? Yeah, both. But my high school reunion, and I was public schooled in high school anyway, would net the same results. So it sounds like he was very highly social until 5th grade, and then 6, 7, 8. Pulled out for 3 years and then was back in school, where he felt out of place. He wasn't in on the jokes. He wasn't in on culture. It was like what the kids are going through today, having lived through 1.5 years of COVID, and then some continued homeschooling. And they're now either coming into programs like mine, where they homeschool with other students part-time, or they're going to public school and they feel socially awkward. Newsflash, everyone feels that way now. So it is the parent's job to make sure that the children have friends. I like to say a tribe. Kids who they feel comfortable with, kids who they're around. They don't have to like them all, but they do need to spend time with other kids their age now. The whole socialization myth, I'm not really into it. I feel like kids should be socialized by their parents. They should be taught to act like adults, not taught to act like kids. However, I feel that camaraderie is highly important. As far as homeschooling his kids, if you're against it, don't do it. If the wife feels like, she said, am I a bad mother for not wanting to homeschool? If she does not want to homeschool, she also should not do it. If the two of them are not wholeheartedly in agreement that the children should be homeschooled, they should not do it. I promise you, the biggest barrier in homeschooling is when parents are not on the same page and the kid knows it. So, if the parents can't get on the same page and let the kid know that they're in agreement on the type of education they're getting, then they should do what everyone else is doing, which is, at this point, public school. If the kid is begging to homeschool and one parent is on the fence and the other parent is a hard no, then I suggest finding a hybrid program or a private school, something that will make both parents happy. But parents at odds over homeschooling is going to turn into an undermining situation, and sometimes that leads to divorce, and then the child loses. So don't homeschool if everyone is not in agreement. So do you all think there is a right way to homeschool that doesn't ruin kids? And perhaps his parents and other people on Reddit Homeschool Recovery's parents all failed at. Yeah, there's a right way to homeschool. And there's a wrong way to homeschool. And I have absolutely seen exceptions in all cases where parents are doing their darndest and it doesn't go well, or where parents aren't trying at all and it does go well. But this is your kid's life, and it behooves you to monitor them when they're young while doing their work, and as they get older, encourage, try different things, take them to different classes, expose them to things that you're not capable of doing, expose them to things you are capable of doing. I'm an artist and I put my kids in an art-based homeschool co-op. Get your kids out there, get them making friends, let other adults have access to them, let them have access to other adults. And when they're 37, they won't hate you for it. Someone said, my current opinion is that many kids manage to do well despite homeschooling. And that's true. Because they were talking about people are making money off homeschooling. People are under the impression that the homeschool I run pays me oodles of money and I'm making money off of it. No, this is a ministry. And this is a ministry that I have chosen because I know so many, 30-year-olds at this point who were homeschooled, who didn't get as rich as an experience as they could have because their parents had less money, or they just couldn't find these programs, in their area. And that's why I do what I do. I could choose to not work. I am that lucky girl whose husband takes care of everything. So, no, this is a ministry that I've chosen. So while I am not making money off homeschooling, it is slowly becoming big business, and a lot of men with deep pockets are getting involved, and I think I've made this video before. That has me a little concerned. We'll see what happens there. Someone says, every time I find out someone is considering it homeschooling, I describe what my childhood was like. Even in the best case scenario, I believe it is cruel to keep your adolescent kids stuck in the same house every day with a parent they're naturally rebelling against in order to develop as their own person, and have that parent managing every aspect of their daily life as both teacher and parent. For 99 out of 100 kids, this is a recipe for disaster. I don't disagree. You need to give your kids a varied experience. The magical thing about homeschooling is the world is now your oyster. Why would the world exist within the four walls of a house? That seems a little wild to me. Okay, and then the dark side of having a homeschool community. I'm 36 and was homeschooled for my entire education. I grew up in a homeschool community, a hemp cult. But I do actually think it can be done well and work for the child, especially in these days when more and more secular families are homeschooling. I have friends who are really doing a good job, but in my opinion, it takes a very dedicated parent. It's hard work, y'all. If it's not hard work, you're not doing it right. And almost always one that has a college education. Yeah, typically. I think that many homeschoolers let ego and insecurity blind them when things aren't going well. They hang on way too long and make up excuses to validate their decision. So yeah, I do think it's possible, but I also don't think many don't. For myself, I think I should have gone to school, but I did actually love parts of being homeschooled. If we had stuck to curriculums, if y'all knew how many half-filled out workbooks I receive as gifts from people finishing their homeschool journey, and they bring me their used books, and the books are only first 10 pages used. Like, choose a curriculum and do the curriculum. Not been so focused on religion, and if we had been socialized better, I think it would have been okay. Also, I don't think in my specific situation that was possible, so I should have gone to school. Another parent says they were an abused child. So we have to separate homeschooling from child abuse, just like we separate public schooling from child abuse. An abusive parent is an abusive parent. And if you think that a homeschool child is being abused, it is our job to say something. I do really agree that extracurriculars a couple hours a week can't make up for lost time socializing. I probably had 6 to 8 hours a week extracurriculars, not all with people my own age. I kind of think that has contributed to social anxiety, and I still struggle with, even after being in university settings for the past 5 or so years. For education, I do think homeschooling was a good choice for me. I know that's really true, though. My upbringing situation was kind of a rare case of constant moving, so maybe military or something. So that was interesting because this person was homeschooled for middle school pretty much, and felt like that stunted their leader of the crowd personality they had, and they became a loner in high school. There's a lot of validity in what he was saying, especially that he's very aware that his mom didn't put any effort into homeschooling him. But how many of us were leader of the pack in elementary school and nerds or more on the fringe of the pack in high school? While his feelings are valid, I don't think that homeschooling makes that happen now. Should mom have exposed him to a lot more, because a lot more extracurriculars? Absolutely. But, you know, I was a vibrant kid, leader of the pack. During parts of my elementary school years, I was in Catholic school. I went to 2 different Catholic schools, and one of the Catholic schools I was definitely leader of the pack. Got my parents to me to public high school, and I was not. Absolutely not leader of the pack. By choice. I'm very careful about choosing friends, and I always have been. And so I just chose groups of people in high school and was happy to hang out in the fringe with those people. So that was 37, trying to convince people homeschool is evil, from Reddit Homeschool Recovery. There are dozens of comments over the last 2 days. Can't read them all, but if you want to check it out, go for it. Till next time.